From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, practice observations, toting the rock in the rain. And if you think we've been cynical or pessimistic, wait till you get wind of this one question in the Renegade Express mailbag. Wake Up Warchant is presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is the website. 2475 Appalachia Parkway, the physical address. Hope you enjoyed trivia last night. Hope you enjoyed the soft shell, hard shell, beef or chicken tacos all day. Today's lunch special, 5-piece chicken wings and French fries. They don't miss on the wings at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, so don't you miss out on that. Only $8.99 over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Thumbs up, please. 5-star rating and review as well. You can do it afterwards if you feel that we need to earn it. We'll do what we can. We'll try to earn it. It's what we do. Myself and Corey Clark. Corey Clark, how are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. Hey, you know what? Thanks for asking.
Hey, man. I just want to make sure you're doing well. It's crazy times out there. Just got to look out for each other out there. It's a crazy world. Crazy world. I guess let's just dive right into it. I don't have a lot more, preamble to go through, so let's get to it then. Practice on Tuesday featured what Mike Norvell called an exceptional day out of Johnny Wilson. To me, exceptional would have to be like catching passes that are contested, but I guess getting wide open is also pretty exceptional, so I thought maybe there was more of that. But do you think that was more of like message sending, soothsaying to our perhaps disgruntled wide receiver, or was that did you see the same stuff that the head coach saw?
Well, I don't think he's disgruntled. That implies that he's unhappy. I don't think Johnny's
maligned.
Unhappy. Maligned is
okay.
The word. Yeah, that's the word.
Right.
No, that's kind of what I wrote, is that I thought he had a really good day. Yes, it wasn't like he's jumping up over people, but he was getting open, and he caught everything. Literally didn't drop a ball out of the, 12 he caught. Most of them in team drills. He was 12 for 12. Maybe one was an overthrow, so 12 for 13, but he caught everything. And again, we talked about this on headlines, people might roll their eyes because it's practice. Well, Aslan, you watched him last week in practice. He dropped passes.
Correct.
That was not, and then it carried over to the game. So, we'll see what happens on Saturday, but I think it's a great sign that after his worst day here as a Florida State Seminole on Saturday night, that was by far his worst game. He comes back on the next practice and catches everything. Again, we'll see how it manifests itself in a game, but it's better than him dropping everything. Then you're like, oh, good grief, he has the yips. You almost can't play him. He caught everything. He made a great catch in one-on-ones where he ran by Shaheem Brown. The ball was just a little bit out of reach. He extended as fully as he could, caught it about a foot off the ground over his shoulder. It was a lot like the Texas catch. Remember the Texas catch against Alabama to kind of wrap up that game in the end zone, where the guy caught it like Willie Mays almost over his shoulders? It was like that, except it was a foot off the ground. And he caught it and then rolled, held onto the ball. I just thought, we'll see. He's got to stack games on top of each other. But that was a really good sign. I know it's practice. It's not a game.
Was that against scout people or something? I don't even remember seeing that.
No, it was one-on-one. It was a one-on-one catch. He had a couple of them where he got open deep and caught both of them. And so, that's something. It's something to build on. Hopefully he can have another good practice today and then just carry that over into the game. Because unlike some people, I do think it matters what he does in practice. Because I thought last week mattered.
Are you pushing back on me? You're saying that I don't care what happens in practice?
No. I'm saying like some people don't think that practice matters. It's only what you do in the game. No, that's not even what I meant. I'm sorry. Some people might have a bad practice, and it doesn't matter because they're awesome anyway. If Jordan Travis had a bad practice, or if Renardo Green gave up 4 or 5 catches, in the game he's going to lock in. Yeah. He's proven it. I think Johnny is one of those guys. How he practices is how he plays. And I was worried, and I'm still worried. I mean, I'm not biting my nails off, but when he dropped the very first pass after the LSU game in that Tuesday practice, when he's running free, wide open. I think it was an 11-on-11. It might have been 7-on-7, but he's wide open, his run past the corner, and he just drops the ball that's tucked right in there. I'm like, oh, man, this might be a thing. And then he dropped a couple more balls that week and then had the game he had on Saturday. So at that point, you're like, man, is he in his head? Is he spiraling? And then, again, the game is what matters. I get it. But it's good to see that on Tuesday he caught everything. Number one, it was good to see that he was out there. And then also that he looked like he was at full speed and he caught everything. So that's all. It doesn't mean he's back, quote unquote. It doesn't mean he's the best receiver in the country. Yeah. It means that he had one good day and that maybe Saturday night really was the anomaly.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that you've said there. I think, though, that I just kind of think he is who he is, but maybe to your point, if he practices well, we'll know that means Saturday will most likely be a good performance out of him. I just think we're going to continue to have to take the good and bad with him. And
yeah, that was just what was weird about Saturday. There was no good. Usually there's, like, he had 4 chances to make catches. 5, I guess. He caught the one, but he was pass interfered with because he was out of bounds. So he had 5 balls thrown to him, 4 that counted, I guess, and he didn't catch a single one of them. I think normally he's 3 for 4 on those plays. Right. He was 0 for 4. So that's the only concern I had, is it was such a bad game that you just wanted to see how he responded, especially, again, with the dude on the other side becoming a highlight factory. You just wonder how Johnny would bounce back. And Johnny on Tuesday was the best receiver on the team. Just Tuesday. But he was the best receiver on the team. He made the most plays. That was good to see. That's all. And if Johnny is back to being Johnny, or can be even a little bit better than the Johnny we've known, that is unfair.
Anecdote from Aslan from practice. There was a moment there, I think it was 7-on-7, might have been 1-on-1, but it was a deep shot to Keon Coleman that, Keon tried to adjust on and catch it over the shoulder, and he wasn't able to, and Conrad Hussey was in coverage. I don't think he was quite in phase, but he was in the same zip code as him. And he brought him down to the ground, which I thought you were going to run out across the field and be like, don't fall down.
I was? Yeah.
Yeah, but even Norvell's jaw clenched, and he's like, stop going to the ground. But like Keon popped up, and he's like, dude, Keon was so upset. It was almost as though Keon had dropped the ball on a 4th and goal play in the playoff. Like, to see the amount of give a damn out of him on a Tuesday practice going into a game where they're severely going to overmatch and likely overwhelm their opponent, to see that kind of like desire again out of a guy who's only been here for however many months now. I know no one needs proof of buy-in, but for me to see him, a guy that clearly has shown that he is supremely talented, has a bright, bright future ahead of him, and maybe it's reasons like that, things like that make him who he is, but just to see him that upset at himself over a play that was really tough. That would have been an extremely difficult catch. I don't even know if he would have been able to come down with it, and there was pretty decent coverage on it. To see like the amount of dejection in him. I mean, because he was talking to himself the whole time he was running back to the line of scrimmage. It was like, all right, man, like these are the kind of things you need to see probably from a team that really wants to compete and go after it. Part of the climb, I guess you could say, Corey.
Yeah, but him in particular, he is different. He is built differently. He has a different kind of mindset. They've called him a professional for 4 months now, that he carries himself like a pro. And that's another indicator of that, right? Like, what he's done already this season, what he did later that whole practice. I mean, it's not like he had a bad practice. He was very good. He's always very good. But he holds himself to such a standard. It reminds me of a really good baseball player that already has 3 hits, including a home run. And on his 4th at bat, he pops up on a ball that he should pulverize. And some of the great ones, not all of them, but some of the great ones are apoplectic when they do that. They're so mad at themselves, even though they already have 3 hits. And they could be like, hey, it's still been a great game. It's like, no, that was an opportunity to have a 4th hit. You blew your chance, get better. That kind of mindset that the great ones have, Coleman's got all of that. He's got all of that. He just expects to make every play, and he's upset when he doesn't. Genuinely upset. Even in practice, because his thought is, and I remember the play you're talking about, because I remember beforehand, it was a 1-on-1, and I remember that matchup going, well, this is an automatic mismatch. This is a touchdown. This needs to be a touchdown. Conrad Hussey, a safety, and a true freshman, go up against Keon Coleman, that's candy. That's candy and a baby. We all know the saying. But they didn't complete it. I thought Hussey had pretty good coverage, but Coleman was about 1.5 yards by him. I actually wrote about that play, and it was just out of reach. And yeah, he was fired up because he thought he could have made the play, and he thought it was a missed opportunity. And that's how you become great, is you don't just settle for being good. Good is the enemy of great, right? Isn't that the saying? Or average is the enemy of good? I can't remember how it goes.
Good is the enemy of great, I think. Is
Yeah,
what,
and that's exactly what that's why Keon Coleman is special. It's also why I think you're going to see the effects of Keon Coleman on this football team for years to come, even though I know he won't be here next year, unless Battles End really comes correct. Keon Coleman is gone, but just think about how you can't buy an example. I mean, actually, technically you could, because Florida State did.
Edit that out.
But a great example for Vandravius Jacobs, Destin Hill, and Hakeem Williams. What better example of how you're supposed to carry yourself and what a pro receiver looks like, how he thinks, than watching Keon Coleman every day, watching how he goes about his business. Man, I just can't. He is going to his imprint is going to be on that wide receiver room for at least the next 2 years after he's gone, because these guys, just by osmosis, but also they see that he's going to be where they want to be, and they see the work he puts in and what kind of standard he holds himself to. And if they have any kind of pride at all, which they all do, they're going to want to be that guy. They're going to want to emulate him. And I always bring this example up, so I'm going to make it quick. Tony Douglas, 2009, on that Florida State basketball team. What he meant, his presence reverberated for the next 3 years, because there were 6 freshmen on that team that all learned how to be college basketball players by watching Tony Douglas bust his ass every day. Every day, in the way he went to work. And I think that's going to happen with this wide receiver room too.
All right, how about the play, which they do to end seemingly what they work on outside before going to the IPF for the rest of the day? I think the ball's on the 4-yard line. Coverage held up. I think the defense might have the upper hand so far. Or I was supposed to tabulate these throughout the year. I was going to keep a running tally.
Oh, it was like a 4th and goal from the 4?
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that coverage, man? I just wonder if any other team out there, man, has that kind of good on good, man. You know, I was trying to peek ahead a little bit to Georgia. Clearly their defense returns, I guess they have like 4 seniors on their starting front 4, or at least like on the front half of the defense. So they've got dudes. And the weird thing too about Georgia not having a lot of sacks, like they're returning sack leaders back. He only had 4.5 sacks last year.
Yeah, they don't do that.
But they have a salty defense, obviously. But I don't know if the offense without Ladd McConkey right now, and some of the other guys are missing. I think that Dejon Edwards running back is out, but they've seemingly they have good running backs, maybe not Sony Michel, Nick Chubb special there. Like, I wonder who else can really simulate that stuff. I love that play at the end, because it really it's all on the line right there, and the defense held tight. So
yeah, and they did good on good a lot on Tuesday, I thought. I think he said today's practice is more like situational and install. I mean, they were doing some install, but they also did a lot of good on good, like one-on-ones. I thought the receivers did well for the most part, especially considering what happened on Saturday. I thought that was a good bounce back for all of them, not just Johnny. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know how much other teams do that kind of good on good. And it's not just one-on-ones. They do 11 on 11.
They do, I'm sure. Like, they go obviously ones-on-ones, Core, but I just mean like how talented the ones are on defense versus how talented this offense is. Like, Georgia's got an extremely great defense. I don't know if their offense is nearly as potent as Florida State. So it's the fact that they get to go head-to-head every single day in practice. I just don't know who else has that luxury, that value that Florida State has right now, seemingly.
You're talking about the defense getting a look like that.
Yeah, and the offense getting a look like they're getting a look too.
Yeah, and again, even when you play your backups, like Conrad Hussey's a player, man. And he's chomping at the bit to be a player on this team this year. Same with Blake Nicholson. Like, these freshmen, Hakeem Williams, Jacobs, they're coming at a rate where like they're trying to get on the field. Destin Hill, they're getting on the field, and they want to be big parts of this offense and this defense, and that's cool to see, because even when you give like a different look where you take your starters out in the secondary, those backups give those receivers they got enough dudes that it's always a good competition, and it's a healthy competition. And again, it just, I won't even say it, but considering what we watched 2 years ago where Parchment was the guy, Andrew Parchment was the guy that the DBs had to worry about in one-on-ones. He was the most talented guy they had on the team from a wide receiver standpoint. And then look at where they are now, man. It's just it's unbelievable. But yeah, it's great looks in that kind of practice every day. It just nothing in the game is going to scare you.
No.
Nothing in the game is going to scare you. And you just were talking about Georgia, and people know I went to Georgia. I haven't gotten to watch any of their games this year. The two that they played, they were both laughers anyway.
We're gonna dial in on the South Carolina game this weekend, though, right? I'm going
sure,
to.
Man, absolutely. But I have no qualms in saying that Florida State has a better running back room, a better wide receiver room, a better tight end room, all across the board now. Georgia's got the best one. But the room with Marquise Douglas is your third string tight end.
I don't know. I love these guys. I might trade all of them for Brock Bowers.
Well, no, absolutely. But I'm just talking about the depth of the talent.
Right.
It's just incredible. It's remarkable. And you got the better quarterback.
Yes.
I know Georgia would be favored if they were playing this weekend on a neutral field. I know it because of the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But Florida State can play with anyone, man. This offense is a serious problem for anybody that lines up against it.
We'll dip here into our Renegade Express questions. Lots of questions about the elements that we'll get to. Our guy Jernal, 1518, says it seems pretty decent chance Hurricane Lee could make for some less than ideal conditions. What, if anything, have you seen Norvell's practices simulate in terms of these elements, temperature, rain, crowd noise, etc.? You asked him about, I think, the weather. There's always crowd noise. When they play a road, when they're going to go on the road, they'll pipe in mostly crowd noise. But yesterday there was mostly music. And then when they're at home, most of the practice will have music playing very loud to simulate, the elements, if you will. But usually when they're all going on the road, they'll pipe in a lot of crowd noise. Maybe they'll do that on Wednesday. But I couldn't hear his response to you when you asked him about, getting prepared, playing with a wet ball, things like that. What was his response?
He said they did some of it. I asked him more about the wind. What can you do to prepare for the wind? Yeah. And he's like, not really anything. I mean, I guess they could build a wind tunnel in their football facility for the off chance that they're going to be playing in strong winds. But he said they did do some wet ball stuff. I didn't see it, so I don't know what he's referencing. Yeah. But he said they did work with a wet ball a little bit in practice on Tuesday. And that's what you do, man. You just had to have a few wet ball drills to make sure the quarterbacks can throw it and the receivers and running backs can catch it and hold on to it. So that's all you really can do, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what else you can. I don't know how else you simulate
leaf blowers.
Bad weather.
Maybe just leaf blowers, like behind Jordan, just blowing in his face. I mean, you can't affect the ball.
That's not a bad play. I mean, like 20 leaf blowers. Yeah. Make it really strong. That's a good point, Aslan. Or one of those industrial fans.
Yeah.
What about one of those things? You know how you can do like fake skydiving?
Oh.
One of those type of fans that hold you up aloft for 30 seconds or whatever. Right. Get one of those and blow them in the quarterback's face.
Yeah.
Then they're just gonna be dodging footballs all day because they're gonna come back to them like a boomerang. Yeah. But still, you got to prepare for the wind. I guess there's a chance it's gonna be windy. Hopefully not rainy. And I'm sure we'll get asked some of these questions. There's been no, obviously no decisions have been made. They're monitoring the hurricane. But, as of now, the game is on for noon on Saturday. Could they move it up? Could they move it back? Could they cancel it? I guess all those are in play. But for right now, it's still Saturday at noon.
Yeah. Our guy Seminole Mike 1, very optimistic young man, which you should be. You all should be. We are as well. For some reason, people on the YouTube comments thought that, we shouldn't be complaining about anything, not even the music. And it's like, all right, sorry, man. Anyhow, Mike says, I think I may have identified a weakness in our program. The media guides. I mean, what's up with all these announcers? I had no idea it was pronounced Tate Roadmaker. So another victim of the pronunciation guide apparently here. So, but he does say that he's trying to place his first vitamin energy order. Too many choices. Which shots do you each prefer and what flavors? So Seminole Mike 1 knows about vitaminenergy.com. Hopefully he knows the promo code WordChamp BOGO. So maybe he'll pick mine and then get yours for free, or he'll pick yours and get mine for free, Corey. But they all have 260 milligrams of caffeine, so they're all pretty much on the same level playing. The Workout Plus apparently has some vitamins that have been shown in research to possibly burn fat and then create more energy, so maybe there's a little bit more buzz, a little more humming going on when you hit the Workout Plus. But, man, for me, the Immune Plus just tastes the best, and I take a half a shot of it, and that's, the nice one. And then mood. But, if you got, a great family,
right,
smoking hot spouse, well-behaved kids, you probably don't need the focus. You don't need the Mood Plus. You're already in a good mood, so maybe try the focus. So I'd go like immune, mood, and focus. Those are like my power 3. Corey, what would you say?
A Workout Plus is the one that I use the most. Although I should try Mood. I think Brady would like it if I tried the Mood one. I haven't even tried the Mood one, honestly.
No, do it.
I do the Workout Plus because I'm a workoutaholic is what you would call me. So yeah, I do that one the most. But yeah, maybe I'll try the Mood. What flavor is the Mood?
I think it's one of the acai flavored ones, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, I've had that.
Tropical
but I
berry.
don't
No,
go,
it's tropical berry. I apologize.
Okay.
Tropical berry. Tropical berry.
I'll try that one. See what happens. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah. Somebody with the go ahead.
Because I'm usually in a good mood.
Yeah.
It won't flip me into a monster, will it?
No.
That's the thing. It's mood, but it should be good mood.
Okay.
Because you know what I mean?
Positive vibes.
There's a lot of different moods you can be in. You want to make sure people understand it's a good mood you're shooting for.
Yeah. Apparently somebody with the program was asking me at practice yesterday, is like, hey, what's this vitamin energy stuff about? Can you give me some? I'm like, absolutely. So we're spreading it far and wide, even within the hallowed halls.
Was that Keon Coleman?
I'm not revealing names, Corey. You know me and my sources.
Right. Okay.
I keep them safe. Head to vitaminenergy.com. Use that promo code WORCHANT, BOGO, BOGO, to buy one and get one free. Vitamin Energy, shake it and take it. All right, Corey, let's get to these weather-related questions. Drayman, wake up, Aslan and Corey. This is my first time leaving a message for the Renegade Express. I'm from Greenwood, South Carolina. Famous people include Josh Norman, J.D. Swearinger, Robert Brooks. I haven't heard of those two guys. I heard of Josh Norman. John Gillum, haven't heard of him. But then I know Hootie Johnson and Billy Payne. Those are Masters Augusta National folk, if I'm not mistaken. My question is, looking at the first 2 games, do we see Trey Benson getting over 1,000 rushing yards this season? That running back room is even more balanced than last year. Thank you, and go Noles. I don't know. Do you know where he's at right now, Corey? I'll look it up here as quickly.
He's got to have – so he had 80 the other night.
126.
Yeah, he's just going to say he's 130 or so. Yeah, look, he's going to have some big games, I think. He wasn't needed against Southern Miss. And if they're playing 14 games a year – or 14 games this year, maybe 15. I mean, what is that, 70 yards a game? Right?
Sounds
14,
right.
70 times 14 is 980. So it's a little over 70 yards per game. So, 1,000, if you're playing 14 or 15 games, 1,000 isn't what it used to be during the Sammy Smith days. But, yeah, I think he's still on pace. I don't think he's been great these first 2 weeks. I'd like him. His best run by far, to me, was that 4th and 1 run where he just hit the hole as hard as he possibly could and then shot through there for the touchdown. I'd like to see a little more of that instead of the kind of a little too patient, a little too tiptoey for me. But he'll find. I believe he will find his rhythm like he did last year. And the thing is, if he doesn't, buddy, he's got dudes behind him that can play. So they are not going to just ride Trey. If Trey Benson's struggling at Clemson, and he's got 11 carries for 21 yards, they are not going to just keep feeding him when they got 29, 26, and 9 out there with them. Like, they got other options. That's why competition is so valuable. Well, if you don't play well, you will not play. So that's what, again, same with Johnny. If Johnny keeps dropping passes, well, Darian Williamson and Deuce Spann are real players now, and Hakeem's coming. So you've got to play or you're not. You've got to play well or you're not going to play. So I still think he'll get to 1,000 yards, though.
Do you think he'll get to 1,000 before December? Like in 12 games?
So that means he would have to average about 88 yards the next 10 games. No.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay. Moving along, next question here on the Renegade Express. Noel Boyo 2, wake up with the weather reports for Saturday seemingly leading to a run-heavy attack. Who do you think will be the leading non-Benson rusher? I've got to go with one of my favorite players on the team, Lawrence Toafili. Who do you all think?
You go first.
Right now, Keziah is the second leading rusher, averaging 15.8 yards per clip. Take that, everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess Lawrence, because if it is wet, maybe you trust him a little bit more, a little bit older, has been doing this a little bit longer, maybe some better ball security. I think it. I do want to say Keziah, but I'll go with Lawrence, and then I think Keziah, then Rodney. I'll go in that order. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. Probably not, but that's how I kind of see it.
I will say this. I know it was late in the game, but if Keziah keeps hitting holes like that and hitting big plays, he's going to get more and more carries as the season goes on. But also, Man, I really like the way Rodney Hill's played early. I know he's only got, I don't even know, 7 carries, but I really
10.
like how hard he's running.
Yeah.
I like what kind of player he's been so far, just like we liked him last year, all season. He didn't get to play much, but even in practice, he just ran so hard, and he's fast. Both those guys are good players. And then Toafili is just the always other dude. But, man, shout out to that guy.
Yes.
He even had a couple big plays against Southern Miss. It's just what he does. He's like the quiet assassin. He just makes plays. He's the forgotten guy.
He's Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, right. But he's the forgotten guy that always shows up and makes plays. He caught the pass on the 4th down where Jordan scrambled everywhere. He had another big run in that game, just like he had a big play against LSU. It's just that dude makes plays when it matters. And shout out to him because he's a good college football player.
Our guy, Island Chief, 2-part question first. Holy Cross rushed for 284 against Boston College, and with Hurricane Lee off the coast, should we even travel with more than 2 whiteouts? A little bit funny there. Let's go his original question here, which is wake up in regards to our back-to-back noon games. I'm thinking that the ACC and Disney want to take away our argument about viewership. I have a jaundiced view of the ACC, though. 31 years of watching them officiate our games will do that. Question, our 2 toughest conference road games come on the 2nd week of back-to-back road games. Is that a coincidence?
Say the first. What was the last question?
Our 2 toughest conference road games come on the 2nd week of back-to-back road games. Is that a coincidence?
What's the other tough road game?
I mean, Pitt, but is there a road game before Pitt? I feel like they're
Wake?
in Tallahassee.
Maybe that's Wake?
Possibly, yeah. Let me see if I can navigate there.
That's got to be it because that's the only other road game they have in the ACC. So it's got to be Wake.
They've got Wake on October 28th, and then after that
Pitt.
is Pitt on the 4th. Yeah.
I will say this about.
All right. Okay.
I will say this about FSU Clemson. And look, man, it's at Wake and at Pitt. It's not at the Cowboys and at Alabama. That's not an incredible gauntlet. Just like Boston College Clemson, really. I mean, you got to play Clemson at some point. So at Boston College should not be thought of as like a middle finger from the ACC. But I will say this when it comes to the noon game is, man, Colorado, Nebraska got a huge number, and that was a noon game. I think Alabama and Texas beat it by like 200,000 viewers. It was like 8.81 to 8.6 for the viewers in that game on Saturday. So you can get a big crowd on a noon game. And if they would have put it at 8, it goes up against Ohio State, Notre Dame. And if they put it up at 3:30, it goes up against Colorado, Oregon. And Colorado is a ratings giant right now. So the fact that it's a noon kind of standalone game actually should help them when it comes to viewership. In my opinion, it's going to be the only game. I mean, it's a top 3 team. Clemson I would assume will be, if they win this week, might sneak into like be 24th or something. But it's FSU Clemson. And if it's FSU in a tough environment with people trying to see if they're for real or how for real they are, or maybe they're tuning in to see how bad Clemson is. Whatever the case is, I think people will tune in to that game because the other big games of the day are later on. So it might have its own window where it can get a huge number for a noon game. So I think I get the question, but I do think that a noon FSU Clemson game in the current context of Clemson not being ranked will draw more than an 8 p.m. FSU Clemson game when Notre Dame and Ohio State are playing at the same time.
Jamaica Nole, not from Jamaica. Justin from San Diego here. Been a while. Maybe it's Jamaican though, but it's just in San Diego. Explain yourself, Jamaica Nole. We will be 7. Wow, strong. 7 of the 20,000 in the stands this weekend in Boston that Corey projected. 20,000 overall or 20,000 Noles?
Probably overall, right? Especially if it's bad weather. That fan base ain't coming out in bad weather.
All right, might be a little bit less of that storm headed this way. What's y'all's favorite weather game you can remember being at? For me, Jamaica Nole. It's a tie between the 2005 Miami game when they dropped the field goal snap to break the streak or the 2010 monsoon Miami beatdown. Go Noles and beat Boston, rain or shine. Did it rain in 05? I don't remember it raining in 05.
I didn't either. It must have. but I don't remember. I don't remember that being like a really like a down. It might have had a downpour in it, but I don't remember it being a crazy.
And that didn't lead to the muff. I mean, that was just pure
Yeah.
ineptitude on Miami's part. I can tell you what my least favorite weather game is. Be 2003 Miami.
Yeah, that rained the whole day.
Yeah,
And it wasn't like a deluge. It was just a constant rain.
And it was kind of cold for Florida
Yes, it
standards
was.
too. It was.
Yep.
It was.
I remember it,
miserable.
man. It was awful. It was awful.
I
And
guess-
Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
Walter
Roscoe Parrish, though.
Payton's
Remember,
kid.
we got Roscoe Parrish, though. Stanford Sam
That's
got
right.
Roscoe Parrish.
That's right.
I think the rain stopped by the time the game started, but it was a miserable morning in Jacksonville for Bowden's farewell game, in that bowl game.
Yeah.
So I don't know
It
if that
did stop, and it was sunny at the end.
Okay, I don't know if that counts, but that'll be my pick for weather game, if you will. Because otherwise, it's like Notre Dame 2018. It was so cold and miserable. I don't have a lot of good memory weather games I can think of when it comes to Florida State.
Well, and look, man, I don't like playing this card, but for the last 15 years, I've been in a press box, so the weather doesn't affect me, so I don't remember it as much. But as a fan, going to games with my dad, Lord, let's see, I do remember that 2010 game though, because the parking lot at Miami after the game was a one big lake.
Yeah.
And I had to be driven. Bob Thomas, who now works for Florida State, but he was at the Jacksonville Times-Union at the time. He drove me to my car because I couldn't walk to it because the puddle was so big. I stood outside his car, like with the door open. He drove to my car, and then I opened my door and then leapt from my car to, you know what I mean, with one foot in my car and 1 foot in his car because it was like 6 inches deep. It was nuts. So I do remember that one. And then look, in the 80s, they'd play those Saturday nights, and I remember a Florida game in '86, which was an absolute monsoon, but they lost that game. So I'm trying. I'll come back to it.
Was there a
Give
game
me a
against
chance.
Was there a game against LSU that was bad weather? The Florida State?
91 there in Baton Rouge. It was the same day that Kirby Puckett hit the walk-off against the Braves in the World Series off Charlie Leibrandt, Brandon Leibrandt's dad.
Sorry.
Yeah, bad memories. But yeah, Florida. It's when Florida State was number one in the country, and they had to come back and beat LSU in the fourth quarter. A whole team got hurt. Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. That was a good memory with my dad. It's just it was sullied by being in the van watching the Walkman as Kirby Puckett hit the walk-off home run. And I'll think of another one as we go.
Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Let's go to our guy, Mark M. Adam CZ. Wake up. I'm headed to the
I got one.
Nailed
Already
it.
remembered it.
All right,
1998 against USC.
Okay.
There was a hurricane. I want to say it was like Hurricane Georges. It was spelled George, but with an S.
George.
George. Like, who knows with these names. But it like the tip of it, the very edge of it, like rolled through right at halftime. But it wasn't it was one of those where like the tents on the where the Champions Club is now, that wasn't there obviously, but the tents would fall over. And I just remember it was a deluge for like 10 minutes, and it was right at halftime when the band, the drummers would go to the student section and start, just the drum line would go to the student section. And that just so happened to happen right as this storm went through. So all the students are there going nuts, getting soaking wet. The drummers are playing in this monsoon. And it was just a pretty surreal scene. So I'll always remember that one.
No lightning
and USC
delay.
was terrible.
No lightning delay, huh?
How about that?
Huh.
How about that?
Interesting.
And we all survived.
I'm looking at the storm track. This thing barreled through the Caribbean. I mean, over the Dominican Republic and Haiti and Cuba. Looks like it landed a little bit east, like the eastern part of Louisiana, but then it made a complete right turn through the panhandle of Florida. It's a crazy looking
What
path.
year? Does it say what year?
1998, Corey
I
Clark.
nailed it. Come on. What month?
Let me
Early,
see
right? It had to be
here.
September because it was a USC. It was a non-conference game.
It was formed on September 15th. It dissipated October 1st.
Yeah, it was a big one, and it just hit right there in that one little pocket for like 15 minutes, and it was insanity. But it was a scene I'll never forget.
All right. You almost forgot it, though, because you didn't say it as your
You're
first
right.
answer.
That's a
to
good point. Good point.
Let's go to Mark again. M. Adam CZ down there in Naples. Wake up. Headed to the Boston College game with my son. We were sitting first row right behind the FSU bench, which should be a blast. Looks to be a sleepy nooner, but it's a good opportunity to clean some things up with Clemson looming. He asked if I'm going to Boston or if it's an Ira joint only. It is an Ira solo joint.
Right.
And this also kind of dovetails with our guy, Nole for Life, class of 2007. He's pumped about how the team has performed and starting to feel 2013 vibes. With that said, we've left points on the field in both games. There's bad weather. Could be a sloppy one. The question is, what do you all want to see from the offense to show progress in fixing some of the miscues that we have seen? Mark as well says, what would be your priorities at Boston College in terms of cleaning things up? He says fewer drop passes would be a start.
Well, yeah, and also that's not just 14 either. Jaheim Bell dropped the very first pass of the game on Saturday night, and it didn't end up counting as a drop because Southern Miss was offsides. But that's like a 20 or 25-yard play. Who knows with the way he can run? Maybe he turns it into a touchdown. And that's his second pretty bad drop. He's another guy I want to see just kind of turn it on a little bit more. But again, I'm not gonna complain too much about an offense that's averaging 55.5 points per game through 2 games. That said, I want to see Trey run hard from start to finish. And I want to see the running game be better in the first half. Like, I know they're going to they should. I shouldn't say I know. By the third and fourth quarter, the way this team plays and as good as it is and as many weapons as it has, I think they will eventually wear down and overwhelm Boston College's defense and do whatever they want. But early on, when they're fired up and firing off the ball and playing hard, I want to see if you can still push them out of the way and dial up a run game that is better in the first half than it's been so far this season.
Yeah, I'd like to see that first scripted drive just go as scripted, right? Just bang, bang, bang. Hopefully they start deep too. Like, we don't necessarily need to start at midfield. I mean, it wouldn't hurt obviously, but I'd like to see them march like 75 yards, just 2.5 minutes. Bangity, bangity, bang. And okay. I want to see Jared Verse just absolutely annihilate Thomas Castellanos. But that might be a tough ask because he's quite mobile. But
yeah,
I want to see, and I know Mike Norvell, tell me you listen to Wake Up Warchant without telling me you listen to Wake Up Warchant, was talking about Jared Verse after practice on Tuesday, saying that he thought he had good game against LSU, but a better game against Southern Miss, and he's doing a lot of good things that are helping the defense as a whole, which I don't disagree with. But like I need to see like that that Jared Verse screaming off the edge. No one is they're totally overwhelmed by his speed and size, and he just gets to the quarterback and gets some TFLs. So I'd like to see one of those.
All right.
That's my thing. Naked_Nole. We'll roll this into our speak, I was going to say, our read when it comes to mybookie.ag. The spread for Clemson this week at home versus FAU is -24. FAU plus 1,100 outright. Who you got? Those are accurate. I was thinking about that. It's actually a little bit less over at MyBookie right now. It's plus 980 for FAU. And I was like, yeah, maybe Tom Herman might mess around going there and pull something crazy out. But they've played Monmouth, and they won that one. They lost to Ohio. So
how bad did they lose to Ohio?
17-10.
Well, they only scored 10 points on Ohio?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not beating Clemson.
They won't, but maybe they'll cover.
I mean,
money line.
Even if Clemson doesn't play well offensively against FAU, they're going to be in the low or the mid 30s, I think, because their running backs are just so good. And that's not a bad number. You could see like a 34-10 kind of game. Maybe 40-17, something in there. Yeah. I think Clemson covers.
Okay. All right. MyBookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT for an instant cash deposit bonus. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere over at MyBookie.ag. Naked Nole also asks Corey, what would the spread be for a hypothetical Florida State versus FAU at the Wake Up Sportsbook? Right now. In Doak, yeah. What was the
34?
Yeah, with
34, 35.
Whatever the USM line was, maybe with an added point.
I was going to say, I think they're similar teams, right? USM and FAU?
Yeah, but USM's got a little bit more established, obviously, with their coach being there a little bit longer.
But also, so if they played Southern Miss again this week, or Troy, name it, somebody from the Sun Belt, the point spread, instead of being 31, it's going to keep the bookies don't like losing money, so they're going to keep pushing the point spread up. So I would think If they could do Southern Miss all over again, I think they make it 38. And so I think that's where you look at FAU thinking, okay, Florida State was up 28 on LSU with a minute and a half to go. They were up, they beat Southern Miss by 53. Yeah, we can't make this another low 30s game because they can do this in their sleep. So I think that's why you make it mid to high 30s with FAU. Don't you think?
I mean, do you realize you just said that Florida State won a game by 53 points?
Yeah. And
amazing.
was sporadic. A little bit choppy on offense, and they won by 53 points.
Let's transition to this one. Random_John. Good morning, Aslan and Corey. I've heard several people on the beat. I mean, I don't know who else you're listening to. I'm kind of hurt.
Yeah, that's what. Come on, Random.
Heard several other people on the beat talk about how FSU needs to be better on offense. To what do you attribute our offensive sloppiness? You know, things like underthrows, drops, inability to impose our running will on the other team as we have done in the past. What say you? Tell us what you have seen in practice that makes our offense suck at the beginning of games.
I mean, they've scored on their first drives in each of the first two games. They had 31 at halftime the other night. Look, I think a little bit of the LSU game was nerves. Your quarterback just didn't play that well in the first half. I thought Jordan was fine in the second half. I think, not that we take PFF, clearly, if you listen to this, you know we don't take that that seriously. But he graded out like the highest on the team, and he was one of the highest graded quarterbacks in the country this past weekend. Jordan was. Because I think he made the right decision almost every time. It's just his receivers didn't help him out. But, look, I think part of it is we get lost. Why was Colorado sloppy? They won a big game, but their offense didn't do – and I know Nebraska's got a better defense than Southern Miss, but Colorado did jack squat in the first half offensively, and they got weapons. Alabama's got weapons. Georgia didn't score an offensive touchdown, an offensive point until somewhat time in the second quarter against Ball State. So I think we have to look around the country. We sometimes get stuck in like a vacuum or a silo, and we're just solely focusing on this team and not understanding that offenses do make mistakes. They are college offenses that you're not going to score every drive, and not every play are all 11 guys going to make the right decision or make a good play. Sometimes you get beat. I don't think I would call Florida State sloppy, except for the drops
at the beginning of games either.
Yeah, well, I definitely wouldn't say that. But they got to get better. They got to get better catching the ball. But I think they will. Johnny's got, I don't know how many official drops he's got, but he had 2 for sure against LSU, and I would say 3 of the 4 balls that were thrown his way on Saturday night, he usually catches. Well, if he catches those 3 balls, there's no sloppiness. You would have scored on those drives. You wouldn't have been you had to go for it on 4th down so much. So, I don't know, man. I just think it's early in the season. I do think that this offense is, I don't know how you could describe it other than being really, really good, even through 2 games. They are better in the second half, but I think that lends itself, as Hafley said, the Boston College coach, when we listened to him on yesterday's show, they wear you down a little bit. They have so much depth that they can wear you down. And by this 3rd and 4th quarter, most teams just don't have answers for this anymore. And they impose their will and they take over games. But, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I just don't know if I would term them as sloppy.
Yeah.
But they have not been perfect.
Right.
Clearly, they have not been perfect.
But
who is?
I know. I mean, we're going to start comparing them probably more to 2013 as the weeks go on. I still don't like it, but I understand it. I get it. But we're acting like Case and Beatty never punted. Like Case and Beatty punted. That team
Not
punted.
a lot.
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
But it did. So, yeah, I think, there's a certain level of expectation that's
But I also get it, right?
Reasonable,
because I get why there could be some angst, only because you know what's coming in 2 weeks. And you can't go and fiddle fart around for 3 or 4 drives at Clemson.
I think you could. I don't want to, but
you could go into Clemson, and if your offense plays well early and scores, let's say, 17 points on its first 3 or 4 drives, that team might shut down. But if you've only scored 3 points on 4 drives, or you've only got 10 points at halftime, and it's 10-7 or 14-10 or whatever, and it's a game, well, now you're in a real dogfight. So you do want to see them start. You don't want to see them start better because they started fine. They've scored on each of their first 2 opening drives. Those next 2 or 3 drives, I get that. Be better. Be better than that. Make sure and just execute. I do want to see that this weekend. Again, the conditions will impact that, I'm sure. But I would like to see a little bit better execution on the 2nd through 4th drives of the game. And then maybe that carries over into Clemson. Because if you don't beat yourself, like, would you say, did LSU stop Florida State at all? Maybe I'm trying to think of a drive where they, like, straight up just played good defense and stopped Florida State.
Well, they picked off Jordan once, didn't they?
Yeah, but that was a crazy decision on his part on first down.
Well, they rattled.
No,
him.
I guess that counts. But you know what
that.
I mean? Like, I would call that a self-inflicted wound. Like, they defended the play well, but your senior quarterback should know better than to throw that pass.
I mean, but
so
it wasn't
it's
an unforced.
14.
It wasn't an unforced error. I mean, or maybe you think it was an unforced.
I think it was an
unforced.
unforced. It was certainly an unforced throw. Like, you didn't have to throw that ball. He was covered. Don't throw that ball.
Yeah, but wasn't he pressured though?
I mean, he would have had to go down and take a 4-yard loss.
Okay.
So, but he could have. That's okay to do.
Yeah.
And then Southern Miss, Southern Miss ripped a couple of balls out of receivers' hands. Like, they made some plays on the back end of the secondary. But I would say through the first 2 games, they scored the guys that matter scored on 9 of 11 possessions against Southern Miss, and they scored on their last 6 possessions against LSU. So you're talking about an offense that has scored on 15 of its last 17 possessions. I don't know what else. There's not much more you can want from that. But also at the same time, like I said, I get it to an extent because of those 2 possessions they didn't score. They both felt like Florida State was at fault. A drop, an underthrow of Keon on 4th down. And then I don't even remember what the next time was they didn't score. I guess there were 2 times they didn't score against Southern Miss because Mastromanno punted. But, yeah, so you always feel like there's self-inflicted wounds. It's not like they're just getting overwhelmed by a defense. So just take care of this. Make them stop you. If you don't stop yourselves against Boston College, if you just execute and play how you should execute, they shouldn't get more than 1 or 2 stops. And if they only get 1 or 2 stops, you're going to score 40-something points and win by 30. So I get it, I guess. I get a little bit of the angst. I don't know if a team that scored 15 of 17 drives is sloppy, especially when you look around the country.
Florida State currently 4th in the nation in scoring offense at 55.5 points per game, 11th in yards at 524.
Who's ahead of them in points? USC?
Oregon, Southern Cal, and watch out for Syracuse.
Okay, Garrett Schrader. Yeah. I see you, dog. All right. Yeah. Dino Babers must have got a pretty nice NIL since you talked to him.
All right, 2 more. Here's a good theory. Noel Tiggety, 11. Take vitamin energy and wake up, fellas. Johnny was not the only receiver who had trouble catching the ball early. Is there any chance the new lighting affected them? Had they practiced in Doak under the lights since those LEDs were put in? I noticed some that might sound a little bit silly, but as an old receiver myself, I know lighting can make a difference in how well you pick up the ball. Now, we were there for that one of those last practices before the LSU game where they did practice inside of Doak and those LEDs. I don't know if they did last week, though, on Thursday or Friday. But, yeah, I mean, to your point, like, Jaheim had trouble tracking the ball, so maybe there is something possibly to that. I mean, it certainly is.
I guess I would say, though, when it came to Johnny, though, I don't think he had trouble tracking the ball. He had trouble holding on to it after he hit the ground. So I don't think that would be the lights would play a factor there. I mean, I get it. It's a good question to ask. We didn't ask anyone about it, so we could. I mean, Keon, it's even hard to ask because it's his first time. He didn't play in here last year, so he wouldn't have known what the lights were before that. But yeah, hey, look, you know what? If they go up to Boston and catch everything in the sunshine with no lights to worry about, then maybe that's the answer.
And last one, it's our guy, Old Dadsanol. Wake up. How is it that we score 66 and the reserves played as much as they did, and yet I almost feel like it was kind of sloppy and less than dominant play? Football is sure a strange game sometimes. Cheers, Old Dad. Probably should have bundled that towards the end of it. I think a lot of it is how does that all happen? Is the defense, man. The defense absolutely stifled.
Yeah, you kept getting the
USF.
ball back in really good shape really quickly.
And you kept going for it on fourth down, too.
Yeah.
So, like, you refused to give the ball back to the other team, and you found ways to score. But it is crazy, again, to think about that you scored that many points, and there were a lot of things that you could – you're nowhere near optimal on running the football right now. You're nowhere near optimal on catching the football, yet that happened. I just kind of maybe tip the cap to the defense, really, mostly.
Well, also I would say, look, we celebrate Jordan Travis on this show. I know you guys celebrate him as a fan base, but you almost take for granted that those 2 fourth down conversions he had back to back, scrambling around for 35 seconds. That's stuff that is a sloppy play that was not executed well, except you just have that dude at quarterback. So I get that was another play that you could say, yeah, that was kind of that wasn't it. Those fourth down plays didn't look a lot like the one against LSU where Toafili's wide open. Those were more of just Jordan, go make some magic because they defended this well, or we didn't execute this play well. Nobody's open, so go run around and make some magic. So you have that. I mean, you still scored on that drive. It's still awesome. It's still cool to see. You still scored on Keon jumping over the guy. But, yeah, I get that, you weren't good on third down. You had the drops, some ugly drops, and it felt a little bit off schedule. The whole game felt a little bit off schedule. And then, again, leave the 66 out of it. The first half, you felt like you didn't play well offensively. You left a lot of plays out there. Your quarterback threw 14 incompletions in a half. And yet you had 31 points. In a half. So, you can't do a whole lot better than that. But, that doesn't mean they can make it, they can be more efficient. They can get the running game going quicker. All that I understand. And so the point being, if they struggle again, I don't say struggle. If they look sloppy at times again this first half against Boston College.
You didn't think they looked sloppy, though, Corey. Don't use that
No, that's
word.
why I said I covered myself. But they had sloppy plays, and they dropped the ball, and they made it harder on themselves than it needed to be.
Okay.
That's all. That's all I should say. They made it harder on themselves than they needed to be, but they're so good it didn't matter. Well, there will be a part in this season. Well, they're not good. Them being good it won't matter. They'll have to execute at a higher level than they did starting out that game. At the same time, they beat the brakes off a team after a short week, hearing about how good they were, off the biggest win any of them had ever had in their lives as college football players. They come out the next week, quote unquote, struggle, and scored 31 points in the first half, and the defense was dominating. So I still like the bones of this team. And this offense, again, as we've talked about since it happened, it's just scary that they're not reaching their ceiling yet. And I truly believe that. They have not peaked yet.
No.
And they still are doing what they're doing. That is scary, scary stuff because literally every offense in the country, save for USC, would kill to have numbers like this and production like this against 2 bowl teams. And Florida State still hasn't quite reached its zenith.
Houston, right? So I remember one of the things is I think we have to show up in Houston in bolo ties for the national title game.
Okay, is that something we promised to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't bought my bolo tie yet, but I'll probably start shopping for my bolo tie soon.
I feel like there's a promise I made for headlines maybe about if they were 4-0.
Okay.
But I can't remember what it was, so hopefully somebody will remind me or find me the clip because I don't write these things down.
Right.
And people will try to convince me that, you said you would, eat dog poop.
Whoa.
Well, who knows, man?
Dog
Some people
food.
don't
How
like
about
me.
dog food?
Dog food. Yeah. And I was like, there's no way I said that. Yeah. And then I'll feel like I'm welching on a bet if I don't. So yeah, hopefully there's video of me so I can actually see myself saying these things.
Clerks
because
pay their debts.
There is a good chance, Aslan, they will be 4-0.
I was thinking about it the other day, just the hesitancy in saying that, like, hey man, don't be greedy, just be 3-1, and you still control your destiny fully and making it to the playoff. And now it's like, man, if they are not 4-0, I will be so upset. I'm not going to rage and say like people need to get fired or anything, but I'll be hurt, man. I'll be like, how did you lose that?
Especially because Clemson, man, at some point you've got to beat them again.
Right.
And it would be nice to beat them in their own stadium.
Yeah.
Go do it, man. It's been a decade. Yeah. Go pay homage to that great 13 team. Nick O'Leary's on your staff.
Yeah.
Odell's here.
Yeah.
Still, go pay homage to that team and go win that game. Yeah. And but hey, you know what? The last road game before Clemson that 13 team played was at Boston College. Now, they had Maryland in between, as we all remember, the problematic Terps. But it was at Boston College, then home Maryland, then at Clemson. So similar kind of schedule.
I know. I love it. It's all coming together. All right, we got a couple more questions left. We'll get to them on tomorrow's show. We hope to have an interview with a Hall of Famer. So come back.
A Florida State Hall of Famer.
I mean, that's just as important as Cooperstown or Canton to me.
No, I know, but I just wanted to distinguish that. But although maybe he is Canton one day. Great career this guy had.
All right, look at these teases that we're laying for you folks. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. We'll be out at practice, interviews, footage, observations, maybe observations, all over on warchant.com, the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Stay connected to us. We got you covered, everybody. He's Corey Amazon. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.